Alright, so our last review lesson before getting into the Chapter 2 lessons on Math Excel, or with our Digits 8 textbook, is one-step equations. So this should be a review from last year, but for those who maybe do not remember, we're going to go through this. This may, like I said, may be a review. These terms may be new to you. So these are properties that we use when we're solving equations. So our first one's addition property of equality, or you'll hear me refer to it as APO, A-P-O-E, which just means that we add a number to both sides. Whereas the subtraction property of equality, or SPO, S-P-O-E, stands for subtracting. Oops. So that's where we subtract a number from both sides. And if those two exist, then you can probably guess the next two, which would be the multiplication property of equality, or MPOE, meaning that we multiply by a number, or we multiply both sides by a number. And this has to be the same number, kind of like when we were adding and subtracting fractions. We had to make those equivalent fractions, and whatever I multiplied the denominator by, I had to multiply the numerator by. It's the same thing with equations. Whatever I add to one side, I have to add to the other, or subtract, or multiply, or divide. So our division property of equality, or DPOE, is where we divide both sides by a number. And again, what I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other side. So here's our first example. And again, when you're showing your work, you will write the original problem out. And then on this one, because this is what I want to do, is I want to zero out the number with the variable. But in order to zero out 4, that means I have to add 4. And if I add 4 to the left, then I have to add 4 to the right. And so here I'm using that APOE in order to get that accomplished. Negative 4 plus 4 equals 0. So now I have x equals, and then 5 plus 4 is 9. And so my answer is x equals 9. You're going to say, well, Ms. Curry, this is so easy. Why do I have to write the plus 4 on both sides? And the answer is because I told you to. Alright, so on this one we have y plus 2 equals 10. And so to zero out that plus 2, I'm going to have to subtract 2 to make that 0. And if I subtract 2 on the left, then I need to subtract 2 on the right. And that's me using my subtraction property of equality. And so 2 minus 2 is 0, so I am left with just y. And y would equal 10 minus 2 is 8. So y equals 8. And that is my final answer for that one. And yes, this is the work that I want you to show. You can complain all you want. It's not going to change. Alright, so in this one it's written as a fraction, but remember fractions is the symbol for division. So we have c divided by 3 equals 4. And so on this case, I don't want to zero it out. I want it to become 1. I want 1c. Right now I have 1/3 c. I want it to become 1c. So I'm going to multiply by 3 to both sides because that's going to undo this division here. And so that's my multiplication property of equality. And so 3 divided by 3 becomes 1. So we're left with c, or 1c, equals, and then 4 times 3 is 12. So again, the opposite of dividing is to multiply, and I multiply both sides by the same number. So since this was divided by 3, I need to multiply by 3 because I needed to make this a 1c. All right, now our last one, we have 6t, so that means 6 times t equals 42. And so in order to undo or to make this 6 a 1, I'm going to divide both sides by 6, which means I am using the division property of equality. And so 6 divided by 6 is 1, leaving me with t, and 42 divided by 6 is 7, so t equals 7. And that's my final answer. And yes, as simple as that work is, that means that that is very simple to show me, and that's what I want to see on your work. Until next time.